Gwenette Martha's name carried fear in every corner of Amsterdam. To some, he was a friend who helped them survive. To others, he was a nightmare that appeared without warning. He was more than just a gangster. He was a leader, a strategist, and a man who ruled the streets with both loyalty and violence. Gwenette was born in Amsterdam in 1974. His parents were from the Caribbean island of Curaçao. He grew up in a poor neighborhood where crime, drugs, and survival were part of daily life. From a young age, Gwenette learned that power meant protection, and weakness invited danger. He didn't have a privileged childhood. School didn't interest him. What taught him more were the streets, how people lied, cheated, and fought to survive. He learned how to read people's intentions and how to win respect through strength. As a teenager, Gwenette was already known for his size and fearlessness. He was tall, strong, and never backed down from a fight. Street fights became his reputation. Every victory made him more respected and feared among young men in his area. In the early 1990s, Gwenette started small, stealing, dealing soft drugs, and running errands for older gang members. But he wasn't satisfied with being a street boy. He wanted control. He wanted to be the one giving orders, not taking them. His life changed when he met people connected to Amsterdam's bigger criminal networks. Those who dealt in cocaine and hashish. They saw his courage and leadership qualities. Soon, Gwenette began climbing the criminal ladder. By his mid-20s, Gwenette was deep into drug trafficking. He controlled shipments, distributed products, and handled cash worth millions. He learned how to run operations quietly, using fake companies, secret houses, and coded communication. As his influence grew, Gwenette started his own crew, loyal men who respected him and feared him equally. He paid them well and demanded absolute obedience. His word was law. In the underworld, he was becoming untouchable. One of his closest allies was a younger gangster named Benaouf A. Together, they built a powerful alliance that controlled drug routes and street operations in Amsterdam. But like every underworld partnership, theirs was built on ambition, not trust. Gwenette loved the nightlife, fancy clubs, luxury cars, and expensive clothes. But those clubs were also meeting spots for deals. He talked business in VIP lounges while loud music and flashing lights covered his real conversations. As Moroccan Dutch gangs began to rise, Gwenette became one of the early leaders connecting Dutch Caribbean and Moroccan criminal groups. The media later called this network the Macro Mafia. Gwenette was one of its original architects. To some people, Gwenette was kind and generous. He helped poor families in his neighborhood, paid rent for struggling friends, and gave out money during holidays. But behind that smile was a man who could order a killing without hesitation. Gwenette ran his organization like a business. He hated betrayal and valued loyalty. He said, "If you eat from my table, you protect my table." Anyone who broke that rule paid the ultimate price. Trouble started when some of his men began stealing money from him. Gwenette discovered it quickly. Those involved disappeared or were found dead. That marked the beginning of a long cycle of revenge and blood. By 2012, a violent gang war broke out between Gwenette's faction and that of his former friend Benaouf. The streets of Amsterdam, Almere, and Antwerp turned into battlefields. Cars were ambushed, houses were shot at, and men were killed in daylight. Each side kept attacking the other. Whenever a man from Gwenette's crew was killed, he struck back harder. He believed revenge was the only way to maintain respect. The killings became endless. It was no longer business. It was personal. The Dutch police had never seen such a wave of organized murders. They called it the New Mafia War. Surveillance increased, but Gwenette was always one step ahead. He changed phones, houses, and cars constantly. Nobody could catch him. Despite being hunted, Gwenette lived like a king. He drove black Range Rovers, wore gold watches, and stayed in expensive hotels. He liked to show success. It made him feel powerful and untouchable. Inside his crew, nobody was allowed to talk to outsiders. Phones were used only for coded messages. Even his closest men didn't know his full plans. Gwenette trusted no one completely, and that kept him alive for years. Eventually, one of his close associates turned against him. The man gave information to Benaouf's side, exposing Gwenette's hideouts. That betrayal would cost Gwenette everything. He had built his empire on loyalty, but loyalty failed him. After the betrayal, Gwenette survived several assassination attempts. His cars were shot at, his friends killed beside him, and his properties burned. But every time, he escaped, injured, but alive. It made people believe he was protected by fate. People started whispering his name in fear. Nightclubs banned his entry. Businessmen avoided his calls. Everyone knew that being seen with Gwenette meant danger. Even police officers were scared to confront him directly. Despite multiple investigations, police couldn't pin any crime directly on him. Witnesses were too afraid to speak. Evidence always disappeared. It was as if he was invisible. The system couldn't reach him. Behind the violence, Gwenette had a family he loved. He had children, and he often told friends he wanted them to live differently, away from the streets. But he was too deep in the game to ever get out. By 2013, the war reached its peak. Killings happened every week. Even innocent people got caught in the crossfire. The government formed special task forces just to stop the bloodshed, but it didn't help. The hatred between the gangs had gone too far. Gwenette stopped trusting everyone. He traveled secretly, never told anyone his full schedule, and always carried protection. He wore bulletproof vests under his clothes and used multiple bodyguards. He knew death was chasing him. Unknown to him, his killers were already tracking his movements. They had studied his habits, where he ate, where he met people, even what routes he preferred. Gwenette didn't realize that the final trap was already set. On May 22, 2014, Gwenette left a barbershop in Amsterdam. As he walked to his car, two gunmen appeared from the shadows. Before he could react, they opened fire. Over 20 bullets hit him. He fell instantly. The man who had ruled the streets died on the pavement. News of his death spread fast. Some people celebrated, saying justice had finally come. Others cried, especially those he had helped. The streets went silent for days. It was the end of an era. The police knew his death wouldn't stop the violence. They prepared for more killings, expecting revenge attacks. His death was not peace. It was the spark for even more bloodshed. His funeral was heavily guarded. Hundreds came, gangsters, friends, family, and even enemies watching from a distance. The coffin was covered with flowers and heavy silence. People cried, but they also looked over their shoulders, afraid of gunfire. After his death, many of his men continued the war in his name. They wanted revenge for their fallen boss. Gwenette had become a legend, both feared and admired by those who followed the street code. Who really ordered his death? Was it Benaouf's men or someone inside his own crew? No one knows for sure. The case remains surrounded by mystery, fear, and silence. Without Gwenette's leadership, his organization fell apart. His men turned against each other. Some fled the country, others were arrested, and many were killed. The power he built vanished in months. Gwenette's story showed that the street gives power, but it never gives peace. Those who rise fast fall faster. He had everything: money, fame, respect, but still couldn't escape death. The violence he started left dozens of families broken. Mothers still cry for sons who were caught in the war. The pain didn't end with Gwenette's death. It continues in every home touched by his actions. Even years after his death, young gangsters still mention his name. To them, Gwenette Martha represents fearlessness and street power. They don't see the tragedy. They only see the image of a man who once ruled the city. To this day, Dutch detectives use Gwennette's story to train new officers. They study how he operated, how he controlled people, avoided the law, and built loyalty. His case remains a symbol of how powerful and dangerous organized crime can become. In the end, Gwenette paid the highest price. His power brought enemies. His money brought envy. His fame brought death. The man who ruled others couldn't rule his own destiny. Gwenette Martha's story ends as most Underworld stories do, with blood, silence, and regret. His life reminds everyone that no matter how powerful a man becomes, the streets never stay loyal forever. They always take back what they gave.